Hey, good morning, and welcome to another episode of Empowerment Through Encouragement. And we're talking about the experience with ADD, ADHD. And we've been doing this for several weeks now, so it shouldn't be anything new to you. But if you've just joined us for the first time, uh, this is fun and it's encouraging and it's empowering. And that's what the idea is. It's knowledge does not give us power. It's the ability to utilize that knowledge and apply it to our lives that gives us the power. And I am joined with my co-host, Dr. Mendy. And welcome, Dr. Mendy. And I'm glad to have you here. Just share with anybody that hasn't heard us before a little bit about who you are, what you do, and how you impact the world.
Yeah. Good morning. Good morning. I'll tell you, it's beautiful from the Carolinas this morning. It was our first cool morning, so to speak. We've had a lot of hot and humid weather. So it's super exciting to step outside this morning and have cool weather. But I am Dr. Mindy Njimo. Again, I've been in education my entire life. I used to set my brother down and say, I'm going to be a teacher and you're going to be the student, right? So really have Homeschool Moms Academy, which is designed to help homeschool moms figure out how to homeschool, how to build curriculum, how to impact their children to become and live out their passion through individualized learning. So super excited about that. Love the conversations we've been having about ADD, ADHD. I know this is something that moms struggle with, getting diagnosed or not diagnosed. But then us just demystifying it's a real superpower and
Right.
how to manage that superpower with our children. So super excited about this conversation today.
Yeah, and like you say, it is a superpower, and it's the way that we think about things. So if we think about whatever it is that we're going through, and that's what we're talking about today, ants, automatic negative thoughts. And we have them. Everybody has them. So every time we think about a thought, we're releasing chemicals in our body. It's like a electrical connection in our brain that's taking place and going back and forth and back and forth. And the more you power something up, the better the power and the results that you're going to get towards the fuel that you're giving it. So when I was in construction and people would show up with these flimsy little 16 or 18 gauge extension cords, and I'd say, what in the world is that about? I mean, if that's something that you want to plug in your toaster, great, but you're not plugging in my saw, because the smaller the wire, the harder it is on the motor. And so what happens is that when we have this wiring that's going on in our brain, then it produces the results, those chemicals. And those chemicals feed us the type of energy we're going to have. And everybody wakes up with a thought.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when we become conscious of that thought, then we respond to that thought. And this is why sleep is so important and so critical, because it allows us to take the toxins out of our brain and flush them and start over. But many people, and especially people that experience ADD, is that we get in this loop of thinking and ruminating and rehearsing, and whatever you replay, you repeat. And this is how we learn our language, by repeating what we hear. And if we're hearing it up here and we repeat it here, or we repeat it in our body over and over throughout the day, it can wreak havoc.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's really good. And I can't wait to talk about like how to get out of that cycle, because once you get into that funk or that negative driving circular motion, it's hard to get out of it, right? And then anything can trigger you like a past event. So I'll just give you, when I saw that we were going to do this today, it came after a night of automatic negative thoughts. And I'll tell you what happened. So we went to a restaurant, and again, setting up expectations, I feel like might be part of this. So last night, my husband and I were going to dinner. We had been in dinner in a long time out. I was starving. I hadn't eaten all day. So I was super looking forward to it. It's one of our favorite restaurants. But there's one waitress at this restaurant we do not like. She didn't. We had very bad experience with her time and time again. And every time we get her, it's always disastrous. So the first thing we do is he's already gotten the table, and I said, "Don't get the waitress with the attitude, right?" We get the table. Guess who our waitress is? So what is my mind automatically thinking? Oh my gosh! And I also said, "Don't get the table in the middle of all the people," because we took the dog with us. We're sitting outside on this beautiful patio, but the dog will be too distracted. Guess where the table is? Right in the middle of all the people. So automatically I begin this negativity, right? I'm negative. Now I have this dog in the middle of all these people who can't settle down. And I have the waitress that I don't want. So I take the dog out for a walk just so I can calm myself down, right? I'm going to calm myself. I'll be right back. When I get back, the food is sitting on the table, the salad, the meal, the bread, everything. I haven't even eaten. We hadn't even like sat into our mode yet. So automatically, this like pattern of just continual. So now I'm just like all driven up. Now my whole night's ruined, blah, blah, blah. And then Stan texts me and said, "Hey, we're going to talk about automatic negative thoughts." And I was just like, "Hey, I got the great example for you, because this can happen to us." And then how to drive myself out of that so that we just don't have to experience that the whole night. It's not just folks with ADD. But it can, I do understand how the loop can go round and round and round in my own mind. So help us out of that, Stan.
That is awesome. I love the story. I love that it was synchronicity, totally unplanned. I'm laughing internally with you, not at you, because it's just the way that these things happen. And so this week there's like 9 or 10 different ants, and this week I want to just cover 4 of those ants. And you're talking about it. You're bringing this up. It is the predetermination about an outcome that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
And this is where anxiety comes in. So fear is taking action over a real and present danger. Anxiety is wasted energy on an event that hasn't happened and an outcome that you don't want.
Yeah.
And so when we get into these ants, we start thinking these thoughts, and we're releasing these chemicals. So as you're releasing those chemicals, now your body is getting what? Let me ask you, when you were in that, when you walked into the restaurant, obviously they must have good food.
They have great food. It's a great restaurant. We know the owner. Yeah. It's a beautiful place.
And maybe the waitress will be watching this, and she'll get kind of the cue, right? But so when you did that, were you relaxed or did you tense up?
No, I tensed up immediately, and like I'm a normally laid back person, but that just grated my nerves because things weren't working out the way I planned, right? And so the emotional, just like you say, all those chemicals are released in my body. And usually when I feel myself going that direction, I step away and calm down and come back and I'm fine, right? And that's what I was attempting to do. Let me step away for a minute. Let me just calm myself down here and come back. But when I came back, the food was on the table. The flies were all over my food. I said, "Just box up my food." I wasn't going to eat at that point. So I had just continued emotionally to heighten this experience. And my poor husband, he's like, "Oh man." He's like, "We just spent $100 on this experience." And I was like, "Yeah, I am so sorry. This was like nuts," right? But I got myself worked up into this emotional state. that I couldn't grab myself out of. And he's like, well, let's go get ice cream. And so, just trying to manage your emotional state out of that, it can be a challenge.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's work through that one. Let's work through that one. That experience. So that would be let's just call that the negative. Then or actually there's many ants that were probably they were having a picnic on your table. Yeah. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Because there was that all or nothing ant. Let's talk about the four ants that
Yeah.
I suggested that we were going to talk about. What were those?
Yeah.
Let's see. The all or nothing. Okay, so when we're talking about this all or nothing, things are either all good or all bad. So when you were in that restaurant,
Yeah.
and you already kind of said, now let me ask you this. How was your day going before you went to the restaurant?
Yeah, I had a great day. It was a busy day at work, but I was looking forward to this relaxation moment. My husband took the time out of his schedule. I was taking the time out of my schedule. So it was all good, up until that point. We had great expectations for the night. I love that all or nothing, though. So keep going on into that one.
Yeah. So it's either going to be all good or it's going to be all bad. And what was the thought, do you think, that was taking place when you saw the waitress was working?
Yeah, that was just because I'd set it up, don't get this waitress. We never have with her. So as soon as I sat down at the table, there was two waitresses walking because it was, and I'm hoping for the other waitress. The one approaches our table. I was like, this is not our waitress, is it? And this is not our table, is it? It was. And I was like, oh my gosh. So immediately all or nothing became like this huge onset of emotion. Like, I don't want to be here now. This is all going to be bad. Right. I want to escape. And so, yeah.
So when you're doing that, there's more than 5 questions that you can ask yourself, and they're modified from Katie Byram's book, and I can't tell you the name of the book. It just slipped my mind, but she has these questions in her book, and I think in other things that she does as well. But these have been adapted, so you have to ask the question. Yeah. You have to challenge this ant. When we go to a picnic and there's one ant, no big deal. We can just kind of brush it away. But if you open up your picnic basket and there's a herd of ants, I don't know what they call them.
Yeah.
But there's a bunch of them in there. It's like, oh, the day's totally ruined. The meal's going to be ruined. These people are loud. I've got flies galore in my food. This is no good. So you ask the question, is this true? Yeah. Is it totally true? Like,
right.
Was it a total bomb?
Yeah, so it shouldn't have been, but you're right. Because I had played it up in my mind, I wasn't able to redirect truth. Just because when I came back when I took my short pause away, I came back to the table and the salad was there. The hot meal was there. Flies were covering both of them. The bread was there with the olive oil and balsamic dip, which is amazing. And all of this, I see it all covered with flies. Again, we're outside. So again, automatically I see this is all bad. But was that truth? Probably not.
Right. And was it absolutely true with 100% certainty that it was all bad, like everything?
Yeah, no. No, and I could have dipped myself out of that if we had. I kept saying to my husband, "Grab another table, grab another table. Like we'll just switch, and I'll get out of this zone." So it wasn't all bad. I was just trying really hard to redirect myself out of that, and just couldn't seem to do it for some reason. Um, so yeah, keep asking me the questions. Number
Okay.
one, is it all true?
Right.
Probably was not all true, but it was something I built up emotionally at that point.
Right. And if it was it absolutely true with 100% certainty.
Yeah, 100% certainty. No, definitely not. The waitress is not rude to us. Um,
Okay.
she was not unpleasant to us at
Okay.
all.
Okay.
I just had a previous experience. I'll tell you about it real quick. We had a huge family gathering at the restaurant, and everybody paid individually. And when she got to my husband asked her, "Did everybody tip you?" And she said no. And he tipped her then very graciously. And I went back and I was like, that's really strange because I know my boys, I know my family, I know my children. They're going to tip well because they were in the restaurant business. I
Right.
came away and all of them had tipped her extremely well. And then
Oh
he
my
did
God.
not top. So to me, she had stolen money from us, right?
Right.
That's my prelude to setting up this. I don't want this waitress. But
Right.
she wasn't unkind to us last night. She did the best. I was snappy because I was like, no, I need, lemon for my tea. You forgot the lemon for my tea or whatever. So was it absolute truth? No, she wasn't unkind. It's just I had this previous negative experience that wouldn't let me see the moment
Mhm.
because of what I was holding, so to speak.
And there are many channels that we could go with that right there. One of the things that, and this isn't part of the questioning, but one of the things that I might I might do in a situation like that is call to an account and say, hey, the last time we were in here, I asked you, did my family tip you? And you said no. And we made sure you were taken care of. But they said that, is there something going on in your family that you may have overlooked that? And it is a calling to that account. It is, and it could be a resolution, but that's a whole nother reframe. Okay. So the idea is you shared how it made you feel when you saw her, you were triggered.
Yeah, right.
And when you were triggered, do you think that it brought up more ants, like other thoughts, negative thoughts that were coming in?
Yeah, absolutely. Because now I'm thinking about how I feel like she had stolen from us before. So all my negativity around her
Yeah.
came up. And it's not because she was unpleasant or unkind. It was just because of that experience. So you're right. But now my whole night's ruined, blah, blah, blah. So
I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay, because you're going right into this. So you said your whole night was
my
ruined,
whole night is ruined. I didn't get my rest and relaxation I needed to be ready for tomorrow, blah, blah, blah.
right? So how did you treat yourself? Did you said that the waitress wasn't bad?
No, she wasn't unkind. She doesn't
So
know. We know she took the money.
so you would you say that you treated yourself good or bad in that situation?
I treated myself bad.
Right.
Definitely. I treated my husband bad. I'm lucky he didn't get upset and leave, that he managed the situation.
So your poor husband, he needed a vacation after dinner last night, is what you're saying.
For sure. And the whole thing is, I was like, man, we just dropped $100 for the worst experience of a night.
Right. Okay, so how do you treat yourself when if you didn't have that thought?
Yeah. At what point would I have had to have controlled that thought, right?
Right.
When I saw the waitress, I guess, right? Because immediately I became triggered as soon as I saw the waitress. And then, like you say, the herd of ants came in.
Yeah.
So how could I have controlled that? Um, you know, seeing the waitress getting that. Yeah, that's probably the point I should have tried to say. Okay, in spite of what happened, I'm going to put that away or whatever.
Right, right. And how could you feel if you didn't have that thought? How would you have felt if you did not have that thought when you walked into the waitress or walked into the restaurant and saw that waitress?
Yeah, yeah. Then I would have been a great night. We would have had a nice time. We would have been relaxed. We would have been sitting out on the patio, enjoying the evening. It was relatively cool. It was a nice night to be out. Lots of people were there. It was very nice. I mean, it's a great restaurant, and the food would have been enjoyable. Blah blah blah. And-
Yeah. And there probably wouldn't have been any other flies at the other table.
Yeah, yeah. And two, the place where all the food came out to where when I came back, all the food was sitting there. I could have controlled that situation and said, send this food back.
Right.
Flies are everywhere. It's going to be cold. We haven't even had our salad and bread. Like,
Right.
send it back. So we didn't, I ended up then not even eating. I did have the salad because I kind of calmed down to the point where we can enjoy the salad. We did sit out there for a while. But I couldn't eat the main meal because it was, flies have been all over. It was cold by this time, blah, blah, blah. So then we were just like, let's get ice cream, get out of here.
Right. Yeah, that's a perfect example. So, when we challenge these thoughts, is it true? Is it 100% true? Who
Yeah.
would I be without this thought?
Yeah, for sure.
And how can I turn this thought around? How can I turn it around and create a different outcome? What would that look like?
Yeah. So how to get off that emotional pull is the question. So even when a child or anyone for that matter pulls themselves up into this emotional height, how do we back us down out of that?
So it's challenging that narrative, that mind. It's like, let's see here. What is the okay? One of the other ants we were going to talk about, the always, and this is one of those things. When I see that waitress, I know that I'm always going to get bad service. I'm going to get dishonest. I'm going to get,
she can't get it right. She
can't
brings
get it right. Always. Every time I come in here, she always does this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when we challenge that narrative that we're telling, because see, what happens is our brain is already being programmed because it's triggered.
Yeah.
And then it sees a response, and then we get a reward.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we get triggered by the waitress. Automatically, we see hey, she's going to ask for more tips. She's going to deliver food at the wrong time. She's not going to give us the service that we're looking for. And I'm tired and I just want good service. Can't we have the other waitress?
My whole night would have been different if I
whole
just
night.
had the other waitress.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the owner comes out. The other thing that I was like, the owner came out. He's friends with my husband, is the owner. Everything okay? You guys having a good night? My husband's like, yeah. I wanted to scream out and say, no, this has been the worst night of my life. And I just gave a charity donation to your restaurant.
That's it, and that's the third ant that we're talking about, focusing on only the negative. There's no positive at all. So was there anybody around your table that was laughing?
Everybody was having a great time.
Everybody else.
There were tables of women out for the night as a girls' night. There were families with other dogs on the patio. Everybody was having a nice time.
Everybody but you.
Yeah, everybody but me.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So when you ask that question, okay, here again, is it true that everybody else was having a really good time?
Yeah, absolutely. It was true.
Do you know that for a fact?
Do I know that for a fact? No, I don't know that for a total fact. It looked like
It
everybody was
looked like
having a nice
it
time.
looked like everybody was. And could it possibly be that they had just gone, you know what? It's not worth giving my energy. I got the same bad waitress or the same bad service, but I'm not going to let it eat my picnic lunch. Could that be a possibility?
Yeah, absolutely. Could have been a
Okay.
possibility.
So
Right.
if those people were getting the same service, would it be possible that you could have that same experience that the other people laughing around?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
And again, I guess some of it is things didn't go my way. I don't
right.
know if that's one of our questions, but again, I told my husband, be sure not to get the waitress and be sure not.
Yeah,
And we get the waitress and we get the table.
yeah.
Like I set it up even like don't get the waitress, don't get the table. Yeah.
So what you're going into some uh, energy work here. This biometric um, energetic magnetic field that we draw to us. So in part of the brain, there's this reticular activating system, and we find what we're looking for.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for everything to go all wrong, you get the bad teacher, you get the bad experience, a bad waitress.
Yeah. It's gonna go all wrong. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's
How to immediately shift on a dime your mind out of that is the key, I think. And I think you're hitting on it definitely. Asking yourself the questions. Is it all true? Is everyone else having a good time? That's a good indicator right there. Just asking yourself the questions, taking a moment to really assess, relax, analyze. Yeah,
yeah. One of the things is it's simple, but it's not easy
yeah,
because our brain is trained.
yeah,
And whatever it is that we've trained, your puppy, you're training your puppy
yeah,
to respond in a certain manner. And we've trained our brain without even understanding it.
yeah,
And so when it gets that trigger, it gets a response, it gets a reaction, and then we get a reward, whether that reward is positive or negative. And here's a simple thing that you can do, but it's not easy
yeah,
because your brain isn't wired this way. And it's so simple. And you just say, that's interesting.
yeah. Oh, that's a good one.
So when your waitress comes
That's a
over,
good one. I should have started out like that. That's
that's interesting. You come back rather than getting all jacked out of shape and clearing the table off. Okay. I'm confessing.
right.
I say, that's interesting that you would bring the salad and the main dish at the same time.
There you go. That's where I should have started. That's interesting. I'm going to remember that. That's a good one. And we got a comment in the chat, and it says
Oh,
the self interrogation to assess facts and separate from the story we make up starts the mind shift. I love that statement
yes,
because that's exactly what we're talking about. So,
absolutely.
the facts, separate from the story we make up. I'm making up the story. Honestly, that was a made up story in my mind. If I look at the situation realistically, the facts, she didn't give us bad service. She was all over us. She blah 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 did everything I asked with a smile, blah blah blah. Starts the mind shift. Yeah, so that's a good statement as well.
Yeah.
I love that's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that self-interrogation because that's what we're doing in the morning. We wake up and when you begin to become conscious of your first thoughts, what are they? For some people, it's like, oh my gosh, it's another one of those days.
Right.
And so your brain goes, oh, it's one of those days. Well, the coffee spills when you're making it. You spill the coffee crumbs over the counter. Now the kid's grabbing peanut butter and jelly and it's on the drawer handle,
Yeah.
whatever. And you just go, yep, I knew it. It's one of those days.
Right. right.
But
And
if
then it
we,
just escalates from there, right? So your
oh,
entire
most definitely.
on,
Yeah.
and it's been one of those days because you talked yourself into it to begin
Yeah.
with. Yeah,
Yeah. It's leaving that sugar trail for those ants
yeah,
and all the way up the steps into the door. And they find, an ant can find one sugar grain. A colony of ant can find one sugar grain in the middle of the kitchen floor.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
They have this sensory, and this is the same thing that happens in our brain. If we got one sugar grain, this is why sugar's bad for you. If you
yeah,
have one sugar grain and you are allowing those ants to come in and eat your lunch, it's going to wreck your day.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so it's challenging that narrative, and um, you know the focusing on the negative. Everything seems to be bad.
yeah.
uh, I think you had another ant in there that I want to briefly discuss today, and we'll get to the rest later. Is that fortune telling ant?
Right. Let's talk about that one. I did
Yeah,
forget. Well.
yeah. So you predict
Yeah,
what's going to happen
yeah,
before you get there,
yeah.
and I mean, you must have had a crystal ball because you called it like, and then did you walk out of the restaurant and go, I knew that was going to happen. I knew that tonight was going to be, did that thought come into your mind?
Um, I guess if I had to say I knew this was going to happen, it would have been at the instance I got the waitress.
Okay.
Hey, as we left, every time we have her as our waitress, we have a bad night. Just
Yeah.
re-solidifying my initial thought of don't get the waitress.
Yeah. So it's that fortune telling. It's determining what's already going to happen before even the possibility of it happening.
Right.
And I just know that today is going to be a bad day. I just know it. I should just stay in bed. And we get up, and I make a morning drink every morning, and
Yeah.
it's a hot drink, and it's almond milk and this yogi chai. It's got all good stuff in it,
Yeah.
and it shows up really good on the Yucca app. Like I think it's 85 or 90 on the Yucca app. And
Right.
but I have these Anchor King mixing bowls, right?
Yeah.
And and it's the same measuring cup that I pour out of every day.
Yeah.
And every day you can't get that thing to stream into the cup without it spilling down the side or running. I do it over the sink. Okay, obviously I do it over the sink. And every day I say, I hate these cups. Well, just throw it away, right? It's the same cup performing the same way. It spills.
Right.
Why do I think I'm going to get a different result
The next
with
day.
the same stupid, and it is a stupid measuring cup? Can't
Right.
they make a spout
Yeah.
that actually pours it out so you don't drip and drizzle
Right.
everywhere?
Right.
But you know where that measuring cup ends up at the end of every day? Back in the cabinet, so
Yeah.
that I can go and grab it the next day and say the same thing.
Yeah, so true. We do that, right?
Yeah.
So breaking that cycle, stopping that pattern, separating from the facts. The fact is that's a bad cup, throw it away.
Yeah. 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 We're creatures of habit,
Yeah.
and so is our brain. It's a creature of a habit. We've trained it. And so when we have these negative thoughts, when we have the all or nothing, everything is going to be bad or everything is going to be good.
Yeah.
We anticipate going to the beach and it rains. I
Yeah.
knew it. It's always raining when we come to the beach.
Yeah.
And so it is challenging those questions. Is it true? Is it 100% true? Who would I be without this
Yeah.
if it wasn't true?
Yeah.
And,
Yes, Dan, let's see. Who would you be without the leaky cup?
yeah. Who would I be without the leaky cup? Yeah.
Who would I be without the bad waitress? Right. A totally different person. Right. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think this is a great place to call today. And we're going to get into the other ants next week. I want to say join us again next week. We're going to dive into that. And the idea behind what we're bringing is that this isn't a one and done.
Yeah, for sure.
You don't just do an exercise. You go to the gym and you do one set of barbell lifts, or one set of dumbbell lifts, or one set of chest presses. You don't do one set and say, you know what, for the rest of my life,
I'm in
I'm
shape.
good.
Yeah.
I'm there.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way. And it's the same way with our brain.
Yeah.
And the same things that we're picking up and taking notice of our energy, and like the comment, I love that. The self-interrogation
Yeah.
assesses the facts and separates from the story that we make up,
Yeah.
and it starts the mind shift,
Yeah. Yeah.
giving it a new meaning. Nothing has any meaning except the meaning that we give it. So, Dr. Mendy, do you have anything that you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, I love that's interesting because it gives you the pause to separate the facts from the story you're making up in your mind. That's interesting.
Yeah.
And if you hear yourself say that enough, hopefully it can become a trigger for you to, okay, pull myself back in, to start to shift my mind back.
Right.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I love today's conversation. I think it's applicable for all of us in so many, even the way moms think about their children.
Most definitely.
So I love this. I can't wait to talk about the next set of questions, thoughts of how we can begin to shift that behavior in our own life. So fantastic conversation.
Fantastic. So until we meet next week, and I don't know, you may not be with us next week. Yes.
No, I will not. But I think we're
Okay,
going
well, you'll have to join. You'll have to join the stream. But until we meet next week, be empowered, be encouraged, and know that the stories that you make up are the stories that you make up. And if you want to change your life, change your story. And when you start getting an ant that starts taking over, an automatic negative thought, just spray some raid on it. And that raid is a rerouting that thought, reframing it, and then ask the ant, or tell the ant, that's interesting. So until then, have an outstanding weekend, and we'll see you